When Sasha turned 3, he, like every other child with a disability, qualified for public school system services. He had been in early intervention since he was 15 months old, but now it's school-based. You know, most counties put your child in a preschool program, whether it's an inclusive program, or it's half and half typical, half disabled. Well, Sasha was put into a middle school when he was 3. It was a new middle school, and so they took all of the special ed kids from the high school and moved them to the middle school. But when I say they took the kids from the high school, I'm talking about preschool and up, not just high school age kids. I went to the same school system when I was in high school, and from 7th grade to 12th grade, that was our high school. There was no middle school. I can remember eating lunch with 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds at the table that I sat at, and they were called and considered Beacon. That's just kind of like a random name that people would call the disabled kids. With those 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, and there were also 18, 19, and 20-year-old kids, because when you're special needs, you can go to public school system until you're 21. So I evaluated the other option that the county had to offer, which was called a Head Start. It was in a trailer next to the road, didn't have a door on it, and the lady came up to me and was like, "Oh, your son artistic? He can draw good. I bet I got some colors he can paint with." And I was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Artistic? My kid is not artistic. He has autism." I was so furious, and so like our only other option was to put him in this middle school. And they promised, like they said, "Oh, we'll keep the kids separated. We'll keep like these older kids on this side and the younger ones on this one." And I'm like, "Well, what's separating them?" They had a panel, like a cloth panel on 2 sticks of plastic. There was no real teacher. The teacher that they had hired on as special ed, what she did was she worked with a higher functioning disabled kids on a curriculum. Our kids were just there being babysat all day long. I was so pissed. They wouldn't come and pick him up with a bus through bus services because we lived so far out, and so I had to take him every day and pick him up. That typically wouldn't be a problem, except for I had literally just had open heart surgery 3 weeks before he started school, and I wasn't even supposed to be driving. So it was awful. Sasha started to regress, and I started to go in the school at random times of the day and evaluate. It turned out they were not separating the kids. He had lower functioning adult and teenage kids in his preschool class. I mean, it was just one big room of all age kids, but they called it a preschool class, and on the left side of the room. I decided to hire a lawyer and go through due process hearing. It was brutal. The special ed coordinator completely lied. She had everyone involved lie. Like, it was nightmarish. I was so pissed in that due process hearing for months. I was just sitting there listening to their stories about how the class was appropriate and they didn't have older kids in there. And I even had pictures, like I had pictures, but we couldn't use them because we didn't have permission from those kids' parents to use them. So they couldn't be submitted. And a couple months into the due process, the school system's lawyer pulls out a map, and he finds the county line through my property, and he had went to where people like pay their taxes, their property taxes, and he found out that the tax line for Bibb County was on a certain side of our property. Well, Sasha sleeps in Tuscaloosa County, so he needs to go to Tuscaloosa County schools. Well, that's incredible because their schools are fucking awesome, like way better than this other school system. I still was not going to just let this go. Like, it was wrong. I have seen kids in the program since I was in 7th grade. Just, they had nothing. They just had this one class full of kids from all over the county of all ages, and they just babysat them. And like, these kids were not being taught anything, and they just cried all day. And you know, some were really aggressive, and some kids were getting hit. I mean, Sasha would come home with bruises all the time. He was getting hit on the back with a basketball from one of the 14-year-old kids, and I would catch them and letting that happen. Like, they wouldn't stop it. Like, 5 minutes would go by, and it's just like they were all fighting and hurting each other. And then the people that were in charge of this class were the special ed school bus driver and the school LPN with no qualifications. The due process hearing was not to gain compensation for back services that were not given to him. They were to fix this county, to fix this school system. By the end of the due process, the whole school year had gone by, and the special ed coordinator for the county of that school system had to resign, and teachers were fired, people were let go, and a new preschool was built. A building that was just designated to preschool kids with disabilities was built, and a proper special ed coordinator was hired, and a proper teacher for the county for that program was hired, and they had a curriculum. And so children coming in this school system after we had come and gone, they now have somewhere to go, and that was my intention.
And you did this on your own?
Yes.
And why do you fight injustice so much like that?
Well, I don't know, it's several reasons. Like, I feel like people out here just don't know. I can't advocate for every child, but I can advocate for my own. And if he was a part of this, and I've just seen these kids for years and years and years grow in this situation. There was a child, when my senior year in high school, there was a child who was 4 years old that ate lunch with me every day my high school senior year. That kid was in my son's class when he went to high school, or when he went to the program. The kid was in high school age, but when my son was considered disabled, turned 3, went to public school system, the kid I used to eat lunch with was now in my kid's class. This kid was a lot older than my 3-year-old kid. I mean, 13. It's just not right. And where we live, I don't know if it's because I just don't feel like, I feel like 25 years have gone by, and the school system have gotten away with this since you can remember. I even went to the local library and I pulled every yearbook from this school at our local library from the 1970s. 30 and 40 years have gone by, they've been doing this. I mean, this is 2000s. You can't, I mean, people are, they're breaking the law, and that is not right.